Hello, welcome to the channel. This video is about how I know how to make F-Zero successful. First, we got to put ourselves in Nintendo's shoes. So, if you're looking at F-Zero and you're looking at the sales figures, you see that F-Zero on the SNES sold incredibly well. And then when X came out, it sold half of that. And then when GX came out, it sold half of that. And then with Maximum Velocity, there was a sales spike, which then petered out. So you're thinking, okay, F-Zero came out in the right time, so it sold well. And then Maximum Velocity called back to it. People just bought it off of nostalgia. And that's a fair assessment, but it misses out on important detail. The detail is that Maximum Velocity and Super Nintendo F-Zero were launch titles. When a new console comes out, there's only two things that we really care about. It can take a variety of forms, but it ultimately boils down into two things. We want to be able to use the system, and we want to feel justified in the purchase. Let's say you have a GameCube. You've got Mario Party 4, you've got Metroid Prime, you've got Mario Sunshine, you've got Luigi's Mansion, you've got Pikmin 1. You have all of these other games at that point. You have enough games to play, and they all make you feel justified in your purchase. Now, those numbers suggest that the further you get away from a console's launch, the less F-Zero sells. But anybody that wants to fight me on that will point out that N64 sold less than the SNES, and the GameCube sold less than that. So obviously, the numbers are going to be less. So let's change that into attachment rate. How many copies of the game sold in relation to how many consoles sold? When you look at F-Zero on the SNES, you've got 5.8 attachment rate. When you look at F-Zero X on the N64, you have a 3.3% attachment rate. And when you look at GX on the GameCube, you have a 2.9 attachment rate. So even if you do take into consideration the fact that the consoles themselves sold poorly, the amount of the install base that went out and bought the F-Zero goes down the further you get from launch as well. There's one company that I think notices this, and it seems to me, I know they make other games, but it seems that their entire business model is shipping an arcade, futuristic hovercraft racing game on a launch of a Nintendo console. And everybody knows it's Shinin with the Fast Racing series. They sell incredibly well, and in spite of all their problems. I think Fusion is the only one that really plays well, but even then, Fast Racing as a series kind of gears itself more towards a Wipeout than an F-Zero racer. You can really feel the weight of the ships, and it's more grounded in reality. But as a result of being more grounded in reality, it's less fun. The closer you get to realism, the less fun a game becomes. Now, of course, anti-gravity racers are not real. So I understand, but I'm just saying from a gameplay perspective, it's more real than an F-Zero. And then on top of that, it's a knockoff of a less fun game, and it still sells well enough to float an entire company, and all they do is launch it on release day of the console. That is the business plan for anti-grav arcade racing games. So let's say you're Nintendo now, and you listen to this, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. We're willing to give it a try. You run into the next problem where Nintendo has already said that they're not entirely sure what to do to make it new again. And this is a tricky problem because on one hand, it's entirely valid, and on the other hand, it's a complete lack of understanding. If anybody from Nintendo is watching this, I've heard in Japan it's rude to be so forward. I really apologize. I don't mean to be rude. I see how something can work, and I want to try to help. So what do I mean by it's a complete lack of understanding? There are some series that have perfected their gameplay. Mario is one of them. You look at Mario 1, 2, 3, World, DS, Wii, Wii U, Luigi U, they all play the exact same. The only difference is that the world, its levels, and Mario's abilities change. And the same is true for tons of other series. Metroid 1, Metroid 2, remake of Metroid 2, Super Metroid, Fusion, Metroid Prime 1, 2, 3, 4, Pikmin 1, 2, 3, 4, Kirby, Kirby's Adventure, Return to Dreamland, Kirby Squeak Squad. I mean, there's tons. I'm forgetting. Luigi's Mansion 1, 2, 3. There's so many series where the gameplay has been figured out. Why do people like this? Nintendo takes it and they just put it in a new setting. The same thing is true with F-Zero GX. There's two ways you can go about this. And they're both wrong. You can go too conservative, and you can try to be too different. If you take F-Zero GX, for example, and you re-release it as an HD version with online gameplay, and you kind of have with the Nintendo Online service, I don't think it would sell well, and I think if you look at the data of how many people are religiously playing F-Zero GX, I think that kind of proves my point. And the reason why that is because the kids that are buying into Switch 2 right now have gone their entire life without playing GX, and their entire life has been great. Great enough without GX. So adding GX doesn't change their life. It's not something new. It's like, oh, this has been around. I never needed it. It's fun to try out. I'll play it, but I'm done. So that is the error of going too conservative. You don't capture the imagination. You make people feel like, oh, this is something that I've never needed and I still don't need. If you go too extreme and you try to change too much, you end up with a Star Fox Zero, where you try to be so new that you break the core gameplay that everyone loves. So with a new F-Zero, you just need to do what you've done with all the other series that I listed off. Take the core gameplay, which is no items, boost pads, and a slider of acceleration with no grip or max speed with high grip, and then have all your ships have different stats. That is the core of what makes F-Zero fun, and that's what you need to retain moving forward. And instead of new worlds like you do in Mario, to recontextualize it, you give us new tracks. Instead of new abilities that you give Mario, you give us new vehicles. F-Zero, since its inception, has been the showcase for your console. I think that is essential for F-Zero. That's the only thing that needs to happen. Now with GX, it gave us a story mode. And I think F-Zero is in a really high potential situation because it's one of the few racing games that actually has a story mode. And past that, it actually has a world that's extremely interesting that I don't think anything else has. It's sci-fi with multiple planets, but it's also a bit cyberpunk because you're a bounty hunter in seedy undercity gangs. It's a really cool fusion of the two. And so if you did make a story with a new F-Zero, please don't make it a parody of itself. I think GX's story, while it was cool that it was there, that it was treated as a joke.
Falcon. Oh, come over here, Falcon. Who are you?
And I think if you took an F-Zero story and you put it more in line of a Yakuza, where, yeah, there can be funny moments, but it's taking itself seriously, I think that would be perfect. I mean, a Yakuza, even if you do a spin-off, a Yakuza-style game where you go planet to planet hunting down bounties, and then you use your money from those bounties to upgrade your ship. Sounds pretty cool to me. But that being said, it brings us to the Switch 2. I'm saying that this needs to be a launch title, and we're past the launch of the Switch 2. And I don't mean to rub salt in the wound, but I think it's an important thing to note just for the future. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was the best-selling Mario Kart of all time, and it wasn't a launch title, and it was a re-release of a Wii U game. And if you look at every other Mario Kart, none of them have ever been a launch title, and they've always sold successfully. The reason why is because everyone wants Mario Kart. Not many people want F-Zero. It's just the truth. And so by putting Mario Kart as a launch title for the Switch 2, you didn't sell any more copies of Mario Kart than you would have otherwise. All you did was block an F-Zero from having success this generation. F-Zero, a very, very small portion of us really, really want it. So when you sell an F-Zero in a situation where it's based off of consumer want, it's not going to sell well, and it hasn't. Let's take the GameCube, and let's say I'm a kid, and I've got Mario Party 4, Super Mario Sunshine, I've got Metroid Prime, I've got Wind Waker. I don't need F-Zero GX to make me play the console, and I don't need it to make me feel like I made a good purchase, or I asked Santa for the right thing. I've got a lot of games I like, I'm playing them. I don't need to drop $60 on an arcade racing game. Right now, everyone with a Switch 2 is playing Switch 1 games through the backwards compatibility with the boost in performance, because there's nothing else to play. I mean, there's a small group of people that are playing Mario Kart Online, but other than that, everybody like me has unlocked all the carts, gotten 3 stars on 150cc on all the cups, and unlocked all the characters, and then we're done. Because Mario Kart is a party game. It's not a single-player racing game. Now, there's racing in it, but let's be honest, everybody uses Mario Kart as a party game for people to come over. And it'd be really nice if there was a single-player racing game that was replayable, that had a story mode, that was difficult enough that I could spend a lot of time trying to get good at, such as F-Zero, but it's not there. See, F-Zero cannot be sold to people who want it, because not a lot of people want it. It needs to be sold to people who need it, but people only need it when there's nothing else to play. Hence, why it's only ever successful when it's a launch title. Maximum Velocity didn't sell well because it was a callback to the one F-Zero people liked and bought. It was successful because it was a launch title. I think Metroid's a really good example of how specific things can be really useful for specific series. Metroid was in a really tough spot, but because of Samus Return's Nintendo Treehouse push, I think that's why it sold really well. And then you figured out, oh, maybe Metroid just needs a bigger market push than the other games. And so then with Dread, you did the same thing, and Dread sold amazing. Now you're doing the same thing with Prime 4. I think it's going to sell fantastically. With F-Zero, its thing that it needs is launch window. With that being said, if I missed anything, write me in the comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me how dumb you think I am. But thanks for listening. Guess I'll see you on the next video, if I make one.